Welcome Darren Woolley from TrinityP3. What can you tell us about TrinityP3?
Well, Trevor, TrinityP3 is a marketing management consultancy. So what we do is we actually work in a strategic space of helping our clients, marketers, manage their various arrangements with suppliers, with their contracts and remuneration and things like that. We started in Melbourne 12 years ago and expanded into Asia about 4 years ago. But now we're working pretty much on a global basis.
I was going to say, you spend a lot of time on a plane. How much time would you spend on a plane? Have you got a postcode? Where do you live?
People say that anyway about Sydney and Melbourne. You know, I say I live about 36,000 feet over Albury when I'm in Australia. But no, I'm spending a lot more time in Asia, but also in Europe and North America.
Excellent. Now, I've known you for a little while, and you've always been very active in terms of, I guess, having an opinion, running columns in the trades like Ad News, etc. You're always being called on to quote for stories in the marketing press. But over the last few years, you've been probably spending a bit more time as your own media outlet. Can you walk us through what sort of things you're doing in terms of content marketing?
Yeah, look, that's actually a deliberate strategy that we put in place. For the first 10 years of the business, we were pretty much focused around using PR through trade press and B2B marketing, building up a database of the potential clients in the market. And when we expanded into Asia, suddenly it was this realisation that we'd have to start all over again. Because in the Australian market and New Zealand, we'd done that for a number of years, and now suddenly you're in Singapore and no one knows you because so much of your activities were done in that home market. And we started doing that, and suddenly a realisation of every time we want to expand into a new market, it's starting virtually back at zero, even though you've got the lessons. So the conversation led to, well, rather than spending all this time and effort building a presence in sort of traditional mediums, why don't we actually build that as an online presence and build an online reputation? And there were so many opportunities with social media or social networking to do that. So it was a case of, let's move that focus away from, and look, it's still there. I still get asked to comment, but largely a lot of the journalists here are picking up what I'm doing through Twitter, what we do through Facebook, what we're doing through our YouTube channel. It's about us building a presence by creating content and then making that widely available for people to either comment on or share. And it's most of our following now, apart from Australia, is actually coming from North America and Europe.
So, going back a few years, you've obviously, as you said, doing the editorial or the media relations quite strongly. Were there any other things? Were you sponsoring or doing advertising or brochures? What other elements of the marketing mix were you doing before, and has that been replaced, or the social media efforts over and above?
Yeah, we did a full gamut of B2B marketing. So apart from building databases and sending out emails, we still do that. We'd have a new brochure every year. We don't do that anymore. It's all online. We do speaking events. Rather than actively pursuing that, we're now finding that people are coming to us to ask us to speak. Those relationships are now built and maintained more through the other activities that we're doing in that online social area, rather than having it as a specific channel that we manage as we were before. So it's really more about moving a focus, and we thought that moving that focus, those other areas would drop away. In actual fact, the focus on social has actually meant that those other areas have been maintained as well. We're just not investing in them.
Yeah, so in terms of, so you're attracting people to you, versus the old push out to them.
And not just in Australia, not just in the home market, but in all sorts of markets. 3 weeks ago I was in London speaking to the media committee of the WFA. Last September I was in New York speaking to the procurement committee. We do speaking engagements in Singapore, in Hong Kong, and all of these are not because we pursued the traditional model that we did here in our home market, but because we moved it into that online environment where people all around the world are actually picking up on and self-selecting that they're interested in what we have to say and the content that we have to share.
So your content marketing strategy, A, is to get people who are interested in your ideas and your theories and what you talk about and what you do as a consultant and an expert in the space. It builds your credibility and your authority, and therefore you're getting asked to speak as a result of that. So part of the ROI would be speaking engagements.
Yeah, but we have 3 levels of ROI. So the first one is, what's the metrics around our social engagement? You know, who and how many people and how often and how engaged are they? You know, we completely revamped our website, and it's amazing watching the analytics of the fact that people are now spending more time on pages and on site and navigating their way through it. So that, you know, we're using those as the first because we want to constantly tweak and improve that experience of people being able to access and share the content that we're providing. The next is, how many contacts are we getting? You know, and where are they coming from? Emails and phone calls come through all the time from people overseas saying to us, you know, we've heard about you, we've been following you on Twitter. I was sitting in a meeting in London with a major client, and this guy walking past popped in and said, I follow you on Twitter and we're LinkedIn connections. You know, and it was like, yeah, I went, great. You know, and then we had this whole conversation about an article that I'd published only a month earlier. You know, so that's the next one. And then the third one is, obviously, what's the impact that has on the bottom line?